Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Okay, brothers are still joining at the moment. Okay, no problem. We'll wait inshallah ta'ala for them to join. And hopefully then we can kickstart the today's episode, which inshallah should be a really good one. That's the plan. Should be a really good one inshallah. Okay, Afi's joined. Salam Afi.
Walaikum assalam rahmatullah. Hope you guys are all right.
Yeah, well, it's not you guys at the moment. It's just me. I was just telling the audience whilst I was waiting for you guys that should have a really good discussion today. I'm just adding JK. I think he's joined now. He's reconnecting. I think he's here. Wa alaikum salam. Yes, JK, how's it going, my bro?
Yes, good. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Can't complain, my brother. Can't complain. I think Afi's got a bit of background music, so he keeps on going on mute. But JK, hopefully your connection is today.
It's just disconnected. So give me a couple of minutes and then I'll join you guys.
Okay, no problem, inshallah. Well, JK, maybe a bit of a small talk before Afi joins. What are you saying, bro?
Yeah, good. Alhamdulillah, yeah, not bad. This weekend's been quite busy, to be fair. Just meeting some family, just family time, really. Not doing much, a bit of travelling, but alhamdulillah, good. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, just been busy trying to get a few things sorted out in the house, and obviously there's the prep work for the podcast and stuff. So it's one of those things that because we do these episodes every week, it's the time to prep and stuff like that. Inshallah, hopefully it'll pay off. Hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts, this minute effort of ours. But yeah, so you know what? Whilst we're waiting for Afi, I think we should just make a start, inshallah. What do you think?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, cool. So we've got a few got a few segments today which we want to cover, inshallah ta'ala, and some interesting ones, and hopefully it will benefit us discussing it, and also people listening in at home. The first topic I want to discuss is a strange one, and I think it's really important that we discuss it. Now, in the last week, I came across someone sent me this, shared a small clip of a video, and in this video we had Sheikh Imran Hosein. I'm sure you guys know who Sheikh Imran Hosein is, and what he was saying is that there's one word in the Qur'an, that the Mus'haf, the Qur'an we have today, which has been changed by humans. And what he was saying is that it's been changed by humans when they were adding the diacritical marks. You know how in the Quran you have the Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra, as some of us Asians will say Zabar, Pesh, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so just to make clear, he wasn't saying that there was a mistake in the Quran. What he was saying is that the Quran was revealed, and afterwards, when people were adding these diacritical marks, they added a word which was not actually from the actual Quran, which was revealed to the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this word can be found in Surah 43, verse 61. Now, the start of this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ. Okay? And what Sheikh Imran Hosein is saying, that this shouldn't be la ilmun, this should be alamun. Okay. Now he does give a sort of reasoning why he thinks is this, because what he's saying is that it talks about that Isa alayhi salam is like knowledge of the hour. However, he was saying that what is better is that it's a sign. He is a sign of the hour, right? So he was trying to rationalize it, but what he was saying is that this has been changed by humans, either by mistake or intentionally over time. Now, one thing I want to make clear, this discussion here today is not about Sheikh Imran Hosein, right? I'm just picking up something that he said, because he's not the only person who has said things which sort of cast a bit of doubt on the authenticity of the Quran as we have it today. So that's the first point I want to make. It's not an attack on any particular person. We're going to discuss the subject matter, the actual issue that's been said, not so much of who said it, right? Now, why I want to speak about this, because, growing up as Muslim, speaking to other people of other faiths, right? It was always for me, and I'm sure it's the case with other Muslims as well. I'm sure it's the case with you guys, that it always gave great confidence to claim that the Quran has never been changed. And why this was is because we know that, for example, the Bible, the Torah, these books have been changed over time, so they're not the same books as the ones that were revealed to the people at the time, right? So for many Muslims, we would say, you know what? Not a single letter has been changed in the Quran, and this is something which sort of fills you with confidence, right? But now, if a claim is being made that the Quran we have today is not the same Quran as the one that's revealed to the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what implications does this carry? So, before speaking about the implications, the first thing I think is worth going into and asking you guys, maybe to kickstart the discussion, is we obviously know that it's incorrect to say that there's a mistake in the Quran, the one we have today. But how is it something that we can establish? How do we know as Muslims that what's being said, that there is a mistake in the Quran? Why is this untrue? Get your views on this, brothers.
Yeah, no, it's a really important topic, and like you said, it's not just this one incident, but there have been various other incidents and other kind of agendas that may not be exactly the same, but very similar in terms of what the objectives are. So your question about why, so what was your question? Why it's important for us to understand how the Quran was revealed or preserved?
No.
Is that your question?
What the question really is that why, as Muslims,
Yeah.
how can we confidently say that what's being said is wrong and that the Quran hasn't been changed?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So in terms of just taking to the incident here, like you said, what he was saying, Sheikh Imran Hosein, it sounds quite small, and some of his supporters have kind of tried to belittle it a little bit to say it's not as big as what people are making it out to be. But the reason it's quite big is that if you claim that one word of the Quran is not what it should be, basically saying it's incorrect, then actually that brings into account the whole Quran being potentially incorrect. So even though it might sound like just one word, لعلم, or as he is saying, should be لعلم, this is very dangerous, because you questioning that one word in itself questions the entire Quran and the basis of the Quran being preserved and protected, right? So as you were saying, I think in terms of the transmission of the Quran, it has been come down to all the way from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and actually all the way from Allah, obviously, because Allah had revealed it to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam through Jibreel alayhi salam. So in terms of that coming to us today and us knowing that it is the exact same word that was revealed to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years ago.
Sallallahu. Hello, JK, you've gone on mute, bro. You muted yourself. Hello.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
You can still. I think I don't know what's going on with JK. I think he's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, bro. You muted yourself.
Sorry, I think my headphones just. Let me just take my headphones out. Maybe just move to after for a moment.
Yeah, that's fine. Afi, do you want to add anything, or do you want me to sort of continue with the flow?
Yeah, I think. I'll start off and then JK can add to it, or if I'm making a different point, then you can make a different point. I think let's look back at the source, the source of this discussion, and that's when the Quran being revelation. And let's be very, very clear that as the Quran was being revealed to Muhammad sallallahu, everyone who was receiving it, they did not challenge that this is something special and that this can't come from man. So what they started to do was they started to make accusations against the messenger, to say, oh, he's a sorcerer, he's a soothsayer, because how else can you produce something like this? Because at the time that the Quran was revealed, the Arabic language was at its peak, and the style, and you know, when you're talking about the most advanced people in the language at the time, appreciating actually that what is being said here, what is being recited, is not the word of man, they started to make alternative accusations. Now, what's happened over time, and we'll come back down to how the Quran was compiled, because I think that will refute whatever this guy's been saying. But the point I want to make is that over time, because the Quran is the word of the Creator, that is the starting point of Muslims. So we will challenge everyone, and the Quran openly says, you know, if you're saying this isn't the word of the Creator, then bring back a chapter like it. And you know, it's a basic challenge. You know, bring back a chapter that meets the style of the Quran, and then, you know, your point is proven. So for 1400 years, we know that a number of Orientalists and non-Muslims have tried to do this, and there's a number of sites that used to be around a few years ago. I think they got taken down because the people were too embarrassed with what they produced on there, where people tried to meet the challenge of the Quran in order to refute it. But this has never actually happened. So the next best thing, and this is a message to the enemies of Islam, and we know that Islam is being attacked from every angle these days. All someone has to do to refute the Islamic way of life is just to say that actually here's a chapter, and we've been able to meet the challenge that's laid down in the book, and it's never happened. So when it can't be met, the enemies of Islam actually have to start playing underhanded tactics and start to change the meaning of what's within the Quran itself. So if, you know, the likes of Imran Hosein are saying, actually, you know what, this has been added by man, and this shows that actually the way it was compiled was wrong, then surely he should be able to produce something like what he's saying that man has done here, and that would meet the challenge that's contained within the Quran, and that therefore refutes that this is authentically the word of the Creator. And I think this is and he isn't the first. There's a number of people who have tried to do this over time, especially when the Arabic language has become a bit weaker in the way it's spoken, because you got local dialects. So what you do is you start to bring in a doubt over time, and you start to get people to start off like this, like he's doing, and saying, look, it's just a little bit. We're not saying that the Quran as it was revealed was wrong. There's a human error that's crept in, and what this allows is starts a precedent for people then to bring their own opinion into it, because you've automatically you've rejected the basis of what the Quran was revealed and compiled in the first place, in terms of the authenticity that was established.
Yeah. No,
Can you guys hear me?
JK,
Just to check.
Yeah, go for it, bro.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. I'm just having a few technical issues. No, I agree with what Aftab is saying there, that the way it comes across as though it's just a small thing, a small change, but the danger with that is it can lead to much more. And look, we don't need to go into the intentions of people, even Imran Hosein. I'm not, like you said, it's not really about him, but it's about the danger of anything like this happening. So just to go back to the point I was making, is just quickly, in terms of how the Quran came to us today as the exact same wording that was revealed to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is the point we make. That is a claim we make. That what was revealed to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years ago is the same Quran we read today. And like you said, that gives us a level of confidence in our da'wah. It's part of our iman. It's not even just confidence, it's part of our iman, our belief, to believe in the kitab, which is the Quran. So how happened, obviously we know the Quran was revealed to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when it was revealed to him, people wrote down the Quran. So when the Sahaba were taking it from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would write down the Quran on bits of leaf, on tablets, on whatever they could find. They would write down the Quran and memorize it, right? So they would be in their mind as well. So this happened during the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many of the Sahaba, when they were listening to the Quran, they would memorize it and they would speak to each other about it. And this was preserved. Then obviously the Messenger passed away, and during the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, I can't remember what the incident was, but many of the Hafid.
Battle of Yamama.
Yeah, Battle of Yamama, that's the one, yeah. They were martyred, basically, and they lost quite a few out of the Hufad. So Abu Bakr saw that this, this is some, obviously he knew that Allah will preserve the Qur'an, but there is a need to make sure that we can protect it, basically. So he brought together a delegation of the Sahaba, where they all came and basically brought together their minds to make sure that the Quran was the same Quran that was revealed to the Messenger ﷺ in terms of what they had remembered and what they've written. So all of that came and they brought it together, and they created the Mus'haf, the book. And then it was during the time of Uthman, who basically created copies of the Quran. So there was one Mus'haf that was left with, I want to say, Hafsa. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you're right.
Then they took that book, and Uthman said we needed to make copies of this because, obviously, to protect it. So they made copies of this, and during the time of Uthman is when they started to introduce diacritical marks, your fatha, kasra, dhamma, those kind of marks, and some of the vowels. And even in Ali's time as well, they added some of this as well. They completed that. So the point I'm making here, the reason I'm making that is because now the claim that Imran Hosein made, if you listen to the video, is that there was something dodgy. And that's the way he said it. I'm just saying the way he said it, right? He said something dodgy happened when the diacritical marks were added, and this word was incorrect. It should have been la'alamun and not la'ilmun. And the reason why that's important, and the reason why I feel like he's saying something to back up his position, is that he is making the point that Isa alayhi salam has knowledge of the last hour. And if you change that word, it can be translated as Isa, because what that means, وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِسَاعَتِ, that means, and his, Isa alayhi salam's second coming is truly a sign for the hour. What this means, and what the Mufassirin have said, is that this means that the coming of Isa itself is a sign of the hour. But the way Imran Hosein is claiming is that Isa alayhi salam himself has knowledge of the hour. Does that make sense? So the meaning changes. And that is why he's making this claim from my honest opinion, right? So going back to the point that we were making here, that it's important for us to understand this is how the Quran was, by multiple chains of narration, from the Messenger ﷺ, from the Sahaba to the Tabi'in, Tabi Tabi'in, and all the generations afterwards, came to us in that form. So now to claim that during the adding of the diacritical marks and the vowelization, that was changed, that would be saying, that is the same thing as saying that everyone at the time had colluded and had known about the error, and they agreed upon the error, which is now the billah that you can't say. How can we say that? That would be claiming all of these classical scholars and the Hufad at the time and the Tabi'in, they had made an error on purpose.
I mean,
and that is why it's important for us to, any claim like this, we need to be able to, attack, basically.
Just to add, an example to what you're saying, JK, I mean, when we're at the Taraweeh Salah, for example, and, with the Imam is reciting, and, he may make a mistake in his recitation, you'll have loads of people that are behind him who will correct him. Because what people have to understand is that the Quran really, it's oral, and it was memorized, and also it was written down. But the main thing is it's oral, so that's why it's in the hearts, it's in the minds of the Muslims, and the way it's been transmitted. And the reality is that even if it's very hypothetical, but even if all the mushafs, i.e. the book of the Quran, was eradicated, it was removed on the earth, from the face of the earth, the Quran would still be there, because millions and millions of people have memorized it, and it's exactly the same. And just to add to what you're saying, that it was around the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu and Ali radiallahu anhu that these changes, these diacritical marks were placed. So what this means, not going into anyone's intentions or anything like that, but when you really think about it from a rational point of view, what this means is that at that time, all the people who were listening, they didn't realize that actually there's been a change in the written form to what had been transmitted to them from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because remember, here you have people who would have first hand received the revelation from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how is it possible, like you're saying, how is it possible that this could have happened? So it's watertight, and just on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an that verily it is we who have sent down the dhikr, the Qur'an, and surely we will guard it from corruption. So so even the Qur'aniyun, even the people who basically deny the Sunnah, to them the way they say is the Sunnah is not protected, the Qur'an is protected because of this verse. Actually, what's being said goes against this ayat really.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to add to,
sorry, go on after.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, just to add to what you guys are saying. I think what the likes of Hussein don't appreciate is that this wasn't a case of something written on paper and someone coming across it one day and thinking, right, let's add some diacritical marks here on what we think sounds right. The transmission of the Quran through generations or from people to people is done in two ways, like what you and JK are saying. It's by memorization, so people have memorized it, or they have read it, or it's conveyed through speech. So people were putting the marks according to, so they'd already memorized it as it had been revealed in the absence of the marks. So it wasn't a case of the marks or just appeared one day. People were adding them based upon what they had memorized, what had been communicated by the messenger, and what they had agreed as being part of the Quran.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was just about to make. To be fair, that when we say diacritical marks and vowelization, it's not a case of. So obviously, when you pick up some of the Arab Qur'ans, right, you see there's no markings. Have you seen one of those Qur'ans where you pick it up and there's no vowels?
Yeah.
And the reason is when Arabs read the Qur'an, they know where the vowels are. So it's not that they make it up. They don't just put some random dhamma somewhere and then a fatha somewhere else. They know from the context and from their memorization, they know what word it is. So as Afi's saying here, it's not as though there's an element of doubt here. The point is that what they had memorized and what they had in their scriptures and what they've written down, they already know what the vowel was for, whether it is la'ilmun or la'alamun. They know it's la'ilmun. It's not a case of, that's what I just want to make clear. It's not as though there's any doubt here. That is part of the revelation of the Quran, that the way it's said. The only thing that can be brought about here in terms of maybe a discussion point, but we don't need to get into it, but is around the dialect. So there's 7 forms of how you say the Quran. But this actually goes back to why Uthman had decided to bring together a delegation to kind of formalize this, is because his argument was that the Quran was initially revealed in the Qurayshi Arabic, the Arabic that the Messenger ﷺ was born into. It wasn't the other, the African style of recitation and all of that. It wasn't revealed that way. So in that sense, the Uthman said, this is the form we need to initially put down. And the diacritical marks is the same. It's no different. But there's an argument to say, oh yeah, how you say it. But the meaning doesn't change. The meaning is exactly the same. And what Imran Hosein was saying is that the meaning has changed, which is, he confirmed that what he's saying is the Quran that we have today in that one word is incorrect, which I'm not saying it of him, but I'm saying to make that claim is kufr. To make the claim is kufr. How he meant it, his intentions, I don't know. Allahu alam. I'm not going to make takfir of anyone, but to anyone to make a claim that the Quran, a word in the Quran, is incorrect, is kufr. So no, I think that's a really important point to make. The other thing I wanted to say is that when we say the Quran is preserved, because I was having a discussion with someone about this, and he was telling me that, look, it's not that the mutawatir chain of narration. So again, just to clarify what I mean by that is, the Quran was revealed to be the highest standard of authenticity because of mass testimony. It was through multiple chains of narration came to us. So there's no element of doubt in that. Whereas you have other types of hadith that are single narration, ahad narration, which have weakness in certain hadith is weakness because it's not mutawatir, it's not mass testimony. But with Qur'an, it's mass testimony. In every single ayah, they all came together and they all agreed that this is the Qur'an and this is the word of Allah. But the point I'm making here is that Allah preserved it, right? So we know that Allah preserved the Qur'an. And what the discussion I was having with someone is he's saying that, do we really need to talk about the mutawatir nature of the Qur'an? Because actually we know the Qur'an is protected by Allah. So that's what means that it can't change the Qur'an. However, my point to him is that, yes, as Muslim, we agree that the Qur'an is protected by Allah and preserved. But how Allah protected it, we have to know. Because otherwise it becomes a blind faith. That, oh yeah, Allah protects the Qur'an. But we need to know, Islam isn't a blind faith. Islam is an intellectual belief. We have to come to the understanding that, and like you said before, the confidence we get in knowing that Islam is the truth is knowing that this is how Allah preserved the Qur'an. So I think that is a really important point for us Muslims, all of us Muslims, to understand this, because if anyone tries to attack the Qur'an, we're able to defend it because we know how Allah had preserved the Qur'an through this mutawatir chain and ensuring that at the high level of authenticity, as we know it has.
Yeah, no, some fantastic points, man. Fantastic points from both of you, really. So moving on slightly, right? So it's clear. I mean, obviously, we're not going into detail because there's no need. But for a lot of Muslims, for majority of the Muslims out there, they wouldn't accept that someone would say that a word has been changed, right? That's fine. What I want to discuss now is, and this is not about Sheikh Imran Hosein. This is not about any particular person, but there's a theme where people are now, what you can see is, before it was very black and white. This is the Qur'an, this is Islam. What we're seeing in sort of the last 10, 20 years is a lot of confusion being sent on those things that have always been 100% clear, right? So just want to ask you guys, what are the implications here? Because you're right, some people might say, oh well, it's a minor, it's just one word, but what's the implications and what's the wider game being played here? What do you guys think?
From my perspective, look, again, like you said, this is not about this incident per se, but there is a wider agenda and an attack on the Qur'an, and like you said, the implications of this, as well as other claims of the Qur'an not being entirely authentic, is to say that the entire Qur'an is similar to the Bible. You could say that some bits have changed over time, some bits are true, some bits are not. And then what happens to Islam is the whole of Islam is destroyed, because our belief in God is, you don't need the Qur'an, in the sense that, so let me qualify that. Just to believe that there's one creator, you can see things around us, and we come to a rational perspective that there must be a creator of things and there's one creator, right? But in order to believe Islam, because there's not now, there's many religions that believe in one God, right? Christianity, some forms of Christianity believe in one God. Obviously Islam believes in one God, Judaism. So the question that the next question that someone will come to is, okay, how do we know which religion is the true religion, right? There's only one truth. And the way we come to that is knowing that the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent is which is the Quran, is the truth. And the way we understand that is knowing that the Quran, and Afi spoke a bit about this already, that the Quran is a miracle. Its language is the miracle. And that both confirms Islam to be true and also confirms that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. And it proves to be he was a true prophet. He wasn't his claim of prophethood and messengership has proven to be true, not for anything else other than the Quran that he brought. And that happened during his time and happens today. And one of the key points to remember is that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came for the whole of mankind. He didn't come for his people. He didn't come for his time. He came for the whole of mankind, for all times, right? And the reason why his miracle needs to stand the test of time and space and place, you could even say, is that miracle needs to be present. Needs to be present, and needs to be that has to be observed, be able to be observed by people today, and we can observe the Quran. It needs to be sensed, yeah. So the Quran can be sensed today. So now you're going back to your question: what is the implications of the Quran being incorrect, or elements of it not being totally authentic would totally destroy Islam, and it will take Islam and put it on the. Basically, you can say it's very similar to Christianity and other religions, and that's the implications. You might say one word here there, but trust me, it's so dangerous. Some of these claims. So I think that's why it's really important that we understand, as Muslims, we don't blindly believe in Islam just because our parents believe in Islam. We believe in Islam because we know there's one God, and we know that Islam is the true religion that was revealed by Allah to the Messenger ﷺ, and we follow the Messenger in that.
Yeah, 100%. Afi, you want to add to that, bro?
Yeah, no, Jazak, JK, I think the only thing I would add to that is, over the years, and Maj, me and you, we go back a number of years, and I think, we can tell that over the last 15, 20 years, just as the attack on the authenticity of Islam has started to occur, the Ummah is becoming a very informed Ummah. 15, 20 years ago, would anyone have, like you're saying, someone sent you this video of Imran Hosein and the likes, when they come out with something dodgy, and you see this debate happening amongst Muslims saying, how can they say that this is incorrect? Whereas 15, 20 years ago, no one would have challenged the likes of Imran Hosein. So it shows that the Ummah is heading in the right direction, which is the first point I want to make. Secondly, that poses a bit of a problem for the West, especially when they've got this fundamental problem with Islam. And we know categorically the statements that have been made, the issue is with Islam as a way of life. It's not with Muslims, it's not with interpretations, it's with Islam as a way of life. And that way of life emanates from the sources that we have, the revelation, and from the life of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So in order to make Islam acceptable, there has to be something which they take away. They have to take away the vitality which keeps it pure and which keeps it the truth, so that doubt can emanate from it. In order to do this, no one thing is going to work. So what you'll find is this attack is coming from various different angles. You got the likes of Imran Hosein saying, "Oh, look, there's an error that was made in the Quran." So 2 billion Muslims are out there in the world, numerous billions over the centuries, and one guy in 2021 realizes there was a mistake, right? or claims that there's a mistake. So he appears and says this, which then starts a discussion. And like JK say, I think, if we don't know how the Quran was compiled, then how do people defend this? And someone says to him, "Well, how do you know nothing's been added? How do you know it's the way Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recited it and as it was revealed to him?" Unless you know, then people can start creating that doubt in your mind. So therefore, it's really, really important that we know. But the second point is, this attack is not just by one source. You're seeing this through various channels, even from people amongst us who are starting to bring out different interpretations, or they're trying to change the way what words mean. It was only a few years ago where there was another scholar, surprisingly from Pakistan as well, who claimed that jihad has got nothing to do with fighting, when you got numerous verses of the Quran which, well, in the context, there's no other context you can take. So the fact that and again, the beauty of what he said was, the beauty of the reaction was, it was people saying, "How can he say this?" I think that's why the enemies, or those people who've got an issue with Islam, are trying to find ways just to start creating a doubt or creating a debate amongst people. And this is going to be a generational thing, because I think that when these statements are made, you see that the generation that we're in is actually out there defending it and criticizing Hussein and attacking him for what he said intellectually. But once that doubt creeps in, if it creeps in, then over generation, it's like planting a seed. They're hoping that over a generation or 2-3 generations, there's enough doubt in there where you destroy the base. And I just want to give a kind of like an analogy for this. So we know the Quran was protected through the transmission and the way it was written, and thus protected the Quran over 1400 years. Now Islam has come the same way. So it's not just the Quran, but it's the Sunnah, the Hadiths, the workings of the scholars, their interpretations, and how they understood the reality and the Hadiths in order to, and as new realities came, and how they derived the rules from the sources. All of this has carried over time. Now, if a doubt can creep in, and then this is carried over a number of decades and generations, you can see how in 2 or 3 generations time their starting point would be incorrect.
Yeah, no, 100%,
exactly.
bro, 100%. Just one quick point, Jake, and then I'll come to you. 2 points. The first one is Return of the Mac. Rash has joined us. So
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Always a pleasure to have my bro on the podcast. And the second point, and I just want to make a point in reference to what Afi said, is really interesting that you said that this isn't just a one-pronged attack. You know, all the stuff about the questioning about the hadith, the authenticity, currently in countries like Saudi Arabia, where they're going through the curriculum and they're removing what they think are problematic ayats and hadith. All of these different style of attacks, they're all coming from the same root, but they're all targeting the same thing. I just want to add that. JK, go for it, bro.
Yeah, to be fair, it's very similar to the point you just made and Afi just made there, that it's not just one angle of the attack. There's various angles to it and various probably positions they're taking. Some more blatant than others, but one of the key ones they're doing is, as Afi was saying about the generational impact of it. If you change one element and then this gets embedded into the understanding of the Muslims, then after generations it'll become normalized, and then you're starting from a position of error. But alhamdulillah, the real positive that's come out of this, as Afi is saying, is that it was challenged straight away. Like, it wasn't as though people, it didn't get too far, to be fair, what Imran Hosein said. So many people came out and said this is entirely incorrect. Either he comes out and corrects himself, or wider ramifications of what he's saying, to be fair. But in terms of those other attacks, one of the key ones that you would have seen many Muslim governments or governments of Muslim nations, you could say, have done, is where they're targeting certain ayat of the Qur'an in terms of the education curricula. So you would have seen probably a year or so ago, the Egyptian President Al-Sisi, he ordered educational officials in the country to remove Quranic verses used in school textbooks that are considered to be non-religious subjects. So what I mean by this is a bit of a word for it, but basically, where there was like a topic to do with, I don't know, geography or history or something like that, where they would use historically, obviously Islam has an aspect to play in everything, right? So we historically, in the social system of Islam, you can apply Islam to everything because Islam is part of everything, right? So if you talk about a certain topic, you are going to bring the Quran into it, the Sunnah into it, right? So what Sisi said is, this has got nothing to do with Islam. Basically secularized the text, yeah? So they removed, they even told Al-Azhar, which is meant to be a religious institute, a Muslim institute, historically has been a foundation of Islamic education. They told them to purge them books, basically, get rid of them books and create new books that are secularized, right? So Al-Sisi basically here, it was leading a campaign to secularize the nation. And one way of doing that is targeting the future generations, focusing on reforming the education curricula of these schools and these institutions like Al-Azhar, and claiming that these texts are either not applicable or they called it extreme, right? They said certain verses on jihad, verses on sodomy, homosexuality, these are extreme, so they don't apply. So one could argue they're not changing the Quran, but what they're doing is they're removing its application. So people don't need to understand it. The next generation don't need to understand it. And what's worse is, you kind of expect this from Al-Sisi, of who he is. He doesn't have, he's not even claiming to be Islamic. He's a tyrant, basically. And he's secular, and he's in bed with the secularists and the West, right? But also, you've had this from the al-Saud regime, who claim to be religious, right? I know they're not, and we all know they're not, but they claim to be a religious nation and custodians of the holy sites. But they themselves have come out and tried to remove elements from the curricula that are, what they claim to be problematic, because they're too extreme and that they need to be modernized, basically, and more in line with liberalism, you could say, and texts such as the laws to do with homosexuality and jihad. They want those removed. So that's another way in which they're attacking the Qur'an, even though it might not look like they're removing elements of the Qur'an. They're removing its applicability, which is just as bad, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Afi, I think you want to say something, but what I'm going to do is let Brother Rash just come in. He's been a silent observer. Just want to get his thoughts on the discussion so far, and then I'll come back to you, Afi.
Jazakallah, bro. No, to be fair, I've really enjoyed the discussion so far. Lots of really good points been made, and I've been following this discussion online as well. And it is interesting, but at the same time, it's extremely worrying for me, because I think what it is you might have heard that, what happens sometimes is if the enemy wants to attack you, they can do it in such a way. And by the way, I'm not calling any specific person out, like you guys have said already, but, certain attacks can be so sinister and under how they say, like a velvet glove, that it's not apparent. And I think things like this can fall into that category, because a little bit what Afi was saying really is that, we have to highlight that the miracle of the Quran is the linguistic miracle. And equally, we highlight that, whenever we talk to people and we talk about the miracle of the Quran, we talk about the main miracle being that it cannot be replicated by man. And if we appreciate this properly, as soon as these kind of subjects come up and Muslims suddenly might find it difficult to deal with or come back on, then it makes it, it puts a question mark in people's minds. But thankfully, like JK was saying, many people immediately were able to refute this, which is what we want. But just imagine if people weren't able to do that. And sometimes it can be a testing of the waters, because if these kind of discussions take place and the Muslims are not clued up enough or not prepared enough to deal with them, what entirely happens is it puts that kink, as they say, like that first little kink in the armor. That will do nothing. Someone will go, oh, that's nothing, I can carry on fighting. But that's the first little kink that allows another one to creep in next time and next time after that. So I think these kind of discussions, is good that we have them as normal people as well, because remember, these discussions are good for the scholars, and it's the scholars and the people of knowledge and those people who have come out and said, look, this is incorrect, what the Sheikh said is incorrect. But equally, if we as if you class as the kind of the normal public aren't aware why, then what can happen is these attacks can happen on our side. We might get doubts, or a Muslim might get a doubt and fall out of the fold of Islam, and that can have a snowball type effect on a society. So I don't want to add anything more technical, because you guys have covered a lot of that, and I think the audio it was very easy to understand, and I appreciated that. But my main concern was these kind of attacks can be in such a way that they start off in one generation, as Afi was saying, and even if it seems minor now, it just takes another one and another one and another one to cause kind of like this more of a snowball effect.
Yeah, some top points, bro. Top points. It shows that you are definitely listening to the podcast. Alhamdulillah, and you find it interesting. That's good. Afi, yeah, bro, go for it, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, so definitely myself. I think I went through a journey in order to come and understand Islam. I grew up thinking it's 5 pillars, and if that, to be honest, it's probably, when it comes to prayer, it's probably just going and praying once a week in the mosque, or during Ramadan, you go and pray more regularly, and then you go back to your normal once a week job. But we came across Islam in a way which actually challenged our mind as well, in order to see that this is an integral part of your life. It dictates every aspect of your life. Now, draw the parallels between this and then actually with growing up in a Muslim country, especially the Middle East. You know, me again, you know, we've traveled quite a bit to Arab countries, you know, Egypt, Syria, Saudi, and you see that you come across people where religiosity is the norm. It's hard to come across someone who's not religious, because for them growing up, because every aspect of their life has been linked to Islam in some way, that's the basis of their life. And now coming back down to what's happening in the Middle East with taking away from the curriculum, this is the start of chipping away at that. So, you know, you take away that link to Islam that a child has from day one, as they grow up and they go through the various institutions of the society, then they're growing up similar to how we were 30 odd years ago in the UK. You know, you don't understand how Islam impacts your life. And this is the start of that desire, because at the moment, like I said, you go into the Arab countries and everyone's starting point of a discussion is Islam, you know, challenging someone's understanding, improving their own understanding, talking about the applicability of it. And this is that every average person, you know, even from the beggar on the streets in Egypt to, you know, a judge that you could sit down with, that's their basis of discussion. And in order to break that away, they have to take away the source. They have to attack it from the source of that problem, which is the way these guys are brought up in society.
Yeah, no, 100%, man.
One other thing, Madge, I think is as much as it is very promising to see that when it has come to events like this and incidents like this, the Ummah comes together and basically exposes it and says this is incorrect, and the preservation of the Qur'an is essential in our deen, and why we need to ensure that any kind of attack like this, as subtle as it may be, we can come together and understand why it's so dangerous and basically correct and ensure people have the right understanding. As much as it is positive to see that, one thing that I think we need to also understand is the application and implementation of the Qur'an is just as important. So just because we want to preserve the Qur'an, obviously, we want to preserve it so that we've got access to it and our generations and children afterwards have access to the Qur'an, very important. But we also need to have the same sort of energy and passion for ensuring its implementation, because end of the day, what is the Qur'an? The Qur'an isn't just a book that sits on the top shelf. The Qur'an is, as Allah has described it, al-huda wal-furqan, a guidance and a criterion. So if it's a guidance and a criterion, we need to ensure that we're understanding it, so making sure that the meaning is all protected, but also implementing it. So when there are other scholars that haven't said as bad as this in terms of saying the Quran is incorrect, there have been many scholars, or quote unquote scholars, who have said that the certain rules of the Quran are not applicable. There's been scholars who have said the Khilafah is not required in these the times today, and that's agreed upon apparently. And things like this, which we know there are many rules that Allah has revealed that are not being implemented today. But as Muslims, we need to understand we are going to be accountable for that. Allah has commanded us to implement these rules. So what are we doing about that? Where's the same energy for that? Where's the same criticism of scholars who question that? And that's, I think that's just as important. We should have the same level of outrage for the non-implementation of Quranic verses, just as much as people trying to change the meaning of the Quran. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a deep point. That's a deep point. I think, Rash, you want to add something, bro?
I was just going to say, I think that's a clear one that you can give an example of in our times. So we might get, like JK is saying, we get agitated that the fact that someone may have said that, something in the Quran, wasn't put down properly or wasn't...
it's not correct.
Not correct. But at the same time, there are many scholars for many years now, more recent years, talking about the concept of jihad al-nafs and saying that's what jihad is. So that same person may never have come out and said something's incorrect in the Quran, but the fact that such a fundamental tenet of Islam, they're trying to undermine it, make it superficial, change it completely from its true meaning, surely that's probably worse, because you're changing Islam. But okay, maybe not worse or better, because they're both bad as one another. But it just highlights that that's something I think actually has been successful from their point of view. The enemies of Islam, because there are still people, sadly, that carry that view, because it was so widely and so in such an organized way that message was pushed out, and it continues to be pushed out, to be fair. I know a lot of people, our problem is we sit in circles and we assume the ummah thinks like the circle that we sit in, because we might think, no, the people we know don't think like that. But actually there's many people, and when you start to speak people outside your circle, you go, actually there are some people who still believe in this concept that jihad is just jihad al-nafs, is just struggle against your inner self, rather than the foreign policy. So that's something where they've made an attempt to change the deen of Islam, and amongst people they have succeeded. So what I think this falls into that category of things that they make an attempt with. Some will succeed, some will not, but they'll continue, and they're all attacks that the Muslims need to be aware of.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, and also just to add on to what both of you guys are saying, yes, we will definitely, defend Islam. We will defend the Qur'an, the authenticity of the Sunnah, and so on. But at the same time, the Qur'an was not there just to be defended as a book, and that's about it. As what Jake said, it's a Furqan. It's a way of life, it's a guidance, and we know that the rules that are in the Quran is what the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ was implementing in Medina once they had the authority and the power. And this is the real implementation. This is actually what Islam is. This is how we mentioned in one of our other podcasts that when the Muslims would go into a different area when they were spreading Islam, they wouldn't force people to become Muslim. They would implement the Islam. They would the Muslims would go and move into those areas as well, and the people would see the justice of Islam. They would see the character of the people, and Islam would win them over, right? So right now that implementation isn't there. The Quran right now is kind of redundant in the sense that it's not its practical side of it, its practical aspect of it isn't being practiced. And I think it's a good reminder from JK, really. I never really thought of it in that way, that yes, we will be up in arms for things like this, which we need to, which everyone needs to. But at the same time, we should also be up in arms. We should also be concerned. We should also be agitated by the fact that, what's in the Quran, what was being, the rules that have been revealed to manage man's life, manage the society, are absent from the world today. How can we be comfortable with that? I don't think we as Muslims, you can be comfortable with that. You'll feel an agitation and you'll want to do something, whatever that something is, but you should feel an agitation.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, no, some really good points, and one thing I just want to mention what Rash said as well. That some people might turn around and say, well, you know what, a scholar said it. These people have spent their entire life studying Islam, and they put that effort in. What have you done? Right? Fair enough. You know what I mean. The reality is the people that are that are the seekers of knowledge, they dedicate their life to it. But on this particular issue we're speaking about, this is something which, just as normal Muslims, we should be able to discuss this, and we should be able to counter this. But we can only do that if we have some knowledge ourselves. And knowledge in what? For example, as Muslims, we should have an understanding of how the Quran was transmitted. This is not scholarly discussion. This is just stuff which you can read in the books of the Seerah, read in some books of the fiqh, on how the Quran was transmitted. So
if you don't know that, how do you prove that the Quran is a miracle to someone? And that's a duty for every Muslim to do.
But that's my point,
Rash. Of the scholar.
That's my point, Rash. Because what you're saying is that we might be sitting in a bubble where people know this, but if people out there don't, and someone says that, look, I'm not saying there was a mistake in the Quran was the Quran, but when man interfered, when man got involved, he made a mistake. Now, for a person who doesn't understand the transmission, doesn't understand the ijma, the consensus of the companions, and these matters, you can fall for that. You can certainly fall for something like that. So, it really is it's upon us to have that desire to learn our deen, and this is really basics. This is not something which is scholarly discussion. But what's
Well,
good? Go on,
the
JK.
example here really actually highlights your point. Like, if we had left it just to the scholars, isn't this really highlighting the point that if we just leave it to the scholars can make mistakes, and the
Oh
scholar
wow!
has made a mistake. So,
Subhanallah,
you know what I mean?
Subhanallah.
Does that not prove the point that we also need to be there to be able to account a scholar who makes a mistake?
Yeah, no, really good point, man. Really good point. But guys, listen, it's getting on, and what I wanted to do is I did want to cover one more segment, but I'm just thinking that we've sort of run out of time for that, and so I'm going to leave that. But what I do want to do is get your sort of final thoughts on this topic. Any final messages you may have? I think that everyone's done a really good job in explaining, briefly on a basic level how the Quran was transmitted. How JK did that, and Afi spoke about the miraculous nature of the Quran, and just to add one point to that is, if we look at the Quran itself, one of the sort of like linguistic miracles is the fact that every single word that's there, it's so precise, it's so on point. It's something which a human could not better, right? He could not find something. He could not find a word to express something better than it is done in the Quran, right? But what we're saying here is that a word was changed, put by someone in there or somebody else, either by mistake or whatever, right? That no one picked up on. Not even just the fact that it's because of the transmission of knowing the words, knowing the ayats, just the understanding of that word, how it has a different meaning, and to think that people would not have picked up on that. So it's just crazy how people could come out with this sort of thing. But anyway, inshallah, I want to just get your final thoughts, brothers. If you have any, anyone can go for it.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think just going to the start of this discussion, the reason why we have the Quran here today is because the Sahaba realized that it had to be compiled in a book form so that it can be preserved and passed on to generations and generations. If they hadn't done that, then where would we be now? We have no idea. But what I would say to people out there listening is the Sahaba did their job, and now the attack on the Quran or the threat to the Quran is different. It's more to attack, what it means, and the Sahaba aren't going to be the ones to defend that now. It's our job as Muslims. We have to be the ones who protect it so that it can be preserved for the generations that are going to come after us, and therefore we have to take the onus. It's not even an onus, it's a responsibility. It's an obligation
Subhanallah, yeah.
upon us now to be able to understand it, to understand Islam the way that the brothers have talked about and the way that we've discussed here today, so that when people do come out with something that sounds dodgy or doesn't stand right, we're not scared to challenge it, and we're not scared, even if it's just to improve our own understanding, and we might have understood it differently. We have to have that desire that we are the vanguards of this deen, and that's a responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon us. If we don't do it, then the kuffar are not going to have a resistance.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Rush.
Yeah, no,
Anything you want?
I just want to extend from Afi's point that he just made there, because the thing is, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that he will protect the Quran. So if the Sahaba at the time thought, you know what, Allah's going to protect it, we won't compile it, it just goes to, then they could have said that, but it just goes to
That's a good
prove
point.
that they understood that, the promises that Allah makes, and the things that happen. We see it, you know, be it the animals that do it, or the, you know, the spider or the web and all of those things. It's through Allah's army that these things get done. So the Sahaba recognize that yes, it's going to be protected, but maybe that's our role to protect it. The issue sometimes is we just sit there and go, okay, Allah said He's going to protect it, so I don't need to do anything. And that's part of the issue, that mindset of going, someone else is going to do this. We commonly have this mindset, oh, someone else will sort it out, I'll just worry about myself. So these kind of things are the points where we need to go, wait there, you know, if I don't be involved in some way, even if it's just to make sure my children are aware, then what am I really doing in fulfilling the promises that Allah has made in terms of doing my part? I think that's one quick point. And the second point is that when it comes to topics like this, if we feel uncomfortable, for example, if we go, I didn't know, you know, I don't have knowledge of this area, I don't know how to discuss this topic, the best thing to do as a Muslim, I think, is to try and gain that knowledge, rather than just going, I'll leave it to someone else. In order to have an opinion on it, in order to be able to, again, protect Islam from your side, these kind of things occurring is an opportunity for us to gain knowledge, and therefore make sure we're armed with that knowledge going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And as Allah says, you know, if you're in doubt, go to the people of knowledge. So
exactly.
Yes, JK, bro.
To be fair, I think the brothers have made some top conclusions, to be fair. And I think just to add finally to that, I think when it comes to the preservation of the Qur'an, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already said, verily we have revealed the reminder, and verily we shall preserve it. Allah says that in the Qur'an. That's an ayah of the Qur'an. And I think just going back to the points the brothers made, that of the importance of us understanding how not just this one topic, but all aspects of Islam, being able to defend Islam, is not just important normally. That's, like Afi said, it's a duty for us to do. But actually, it's even more important in the times we're living today, because whether it be in the West or even in the Muslim lands, there is an agenda, a deliberate agenda to attack Islam and, you know, create doubts in the minds of the Muslims. So, you know, we went to school at one time and there was a certain level of attack on Islam. But now, after 9/11, after these generations of kind of this war on Islam, the attack has become very severe. And the liberal attack and trying to cause doubts in the minds of the Muslims by having topics such as, you know, citizenship, and topics where, you know, where our religious education used to be just very much talking about the pillars of Islam and pillars of other religions. Now they very much try to question of, you know, why does Islam have to be the truth? Why would there be a God if there's problems in the world and there's all this chaos in the world? How can a God? Very difficult questions that are aimed to cause doubts in the minds of the Muslims. So that makes it just as important to be able to answer these questions and understand from Islam, because Islam isn't a blind religion. It's not a blind deen. It's very much a religion that makes sense to the intellect and rationally makes sense. So if we say this, that means we need to go about and do our reading and gain the knowledge to be able to defend Islam. And it was a video I was watching the other day, and it was very interesting. And it was like I think it was like a revert video, or a video where someone became Muslim. And the brother was explaining to the guy that, you know, with the Bible and all of this, everyone knows the Bible has very many different forms. There's lots of different Bibles. If you went into a bookshop and asked for a Bible, they will ask you which one, right? If you went and asked for the Qur'an, you can get one Qur'an. Yes, there's different translations, but there's one Mus'haf, one Arabic Qur'an. And on this video, the brother tells the guy that said, look, search on Google for the Birmingham manuscript, right? And the Birmingham manuscript is, I'm not sure why it's in Birmingham. That's a whole different question. But there's a manuscript of the Qur'an in Birmingham, in the Birmingham Museum, right? Probably due to colonialism. I'm not sure why it's in Birmingham, but that is dated to be a version of a few pages from the Qur'an after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, just after the death, right? And that version, the manuscript, the wording is exactly the same as the wording we have today. If you went and picked up your Quran, exactly word for word is exactly the same, which proves that the Quran has been preserved. You couldn't say that for any other book, right? And it doesn't come as a surprise to us, but this was a surprise to the brother, the person who became Muslim. It was a surprise to him because, you know, this is only Islam can make this claim. So if we're Muslim and we want to be confident about being Muslim and why we follow Islam, don't just follow it because your parents told you to follow it. Follow it because you're convinced that Islam is the truth and is the truth for the whole of mankind. And that's my point, really.
Yeah, no, fantastic points, man. Fantastic points. The only thing I just want to say is on how important this topic is about the Quran authenticity. I think there's a statement by, I think is it what's the guy's name? Gervais? What's his name? The comedian guy?
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, and he said something like, if all the religious books were burnt, then religion would be sort of like absent. Yeah, you couldn't get it back. But if all the science books were burnt, science would still be there. And yes, he may be right when it comes down to just religions that, you know, their authenticity is in question. But when it comes to Islam, the reality is the fact that even if every Mus'haf was destroyed, the deen of Islam will still be existent today because it's in the hearts and the minds of the Muslims. And that's why this question, you see, what we're discussing here is that important, because if we relegate the Quran to a religious book like others, which may have some some things in it which have been added or changed or removed, then it falls into that category of what Ricky Gervais was saying, or what atheists trying to say, and that this is just a man-made thing. It's not from the creator. Anyway, I want to sort of end on that note, guys. A big jazakallah khair for all of you guys to join. Even Brother Rash, busy guy, but still took some time out. Just want to say that this podcast will be available on the Islamic Vibes podcast and also on the YouTube channel Path to Revival. So please go and check it out, subscribe, share, follow, and get the word out. And yeah, so once again, guys, thanks to you guys, jazakallah khair, jazakallah for all the listeners. And inshallah ta'ala, like I always say, inshallah, see you guys on the next one.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.